Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Happy Thursday. Well, what do we have? 2 more Thursdays before Thanksgiving. So fall is fully underway and it's peeping season. So it's beautiful. I hope you're enjoying it out there. Today we have Joe McQuillen with us. I am really excited. I met Joe a few weeks ago through a mediumship situation, and his story came out. My search for Christopher, his grief, and how his son came to him, and how together they wrote this book. So for those who are on Facebook, you can see the cover, and his latest book, We're Not Done Yet, Pop, has just been released. And you can find these books on Amazon and where else, Joe?
Yeah, Amazon. They're in Kindle.
Okay, on Amazon.
They're paperback Kindle and Audible. The second book, Audible, is being done now. But I wanted the same talent who'd done the first one to keep it consistent. So it's hidden, but they're there on Amazon.
Perfect. Welcome, Joe. So to bring you in here to this conversation. So you're married, 3 children. You come from New York. You've been in sales. You've been successful in both automobile business and was there another business or just automobile?
Mortgages. I've been in mortgages. We sold out in 2008, and I've been in mortgages since 2008, and it's been an outstanding ride. So it's been great.
Okay, I'm going to tell everybody who's watching with the internet, and I want to make sure we have a great interview. So don't worry about not seeing me. I'll see you, Joe. And of course, people out there, don't worry about not seeing me. The most important thing is that you see and hear Joe. So let's talk about Christopher.
Sure.
We're bringing, because what this is all about, Christopher and how Christopher. Well, I'll let you tell the story. What happened with Christopher?
Well, Christopher was is our oldest. He in 2016, at 21, he was home for college for Christmas break. And on the last weekend, before all going back to school, a dozen friends went up to one of the friends' lake house in Lake Beulah. I live on the north shore of Chicago area, and Lake Beulah is about an hour and a half north. And and they went up and they spend the night, raise a little hell, celebrate their last couple of days of freedom before going back to school. They all went up and went to a little tavern and shot pool and kicked up their heels and drank a little bit, and maybe a little bit too much, and went back to the house, and the party continued. And around 3:00, my boy and 3 of his friends walked outside, and I'm guessing to get high, or just stroll around, whatever a 21-year-old's going to do. Walked past the boathouse, opened it up, saw a canoe, and 4 young men in layered clothing and unlaced Timberland boots and a snoot full of alcohol jumped in a 3-man canoe and paddled out on a partially frozen lake, and all 4 drowned. None of them made it back. I got a text from the young man who owned the house about 11 o'clock in the morning. It said, "Mr. McHugh, Chris and 3 friends are missing." So I grabbed the Labrador, grabbed some boots, jumped in the car, in the Jeep, started heading up north, fully expecting to find him in a boathouse with a co-ed or in somebody else's house shooting pool, with pails or something. And halfway up, I got a call from the lad's uncle, who lived a few doors away, who said, "Hey, Joe, it's no longer a search but a recovery. All 4 are drowned." And I'm sure I went into shock, as every parent in this situation did. I finished the drive up to Lake Beulah. When I walked in the front door, and I can picture it looking out my window here talking to you, Marla. I can look through this big lake house and out the picture window and see the rescue boats and the sirens and the lights and the divers. And it takes me right back to that moment, so that moment I knew that Christopher wasn't here anymore, but I didn't know what that meant. And I certainly wasn't okay with it. And so I decided that I needed to do my own search, which is my own search was to find where he was, 16 years before, on sort of a quest, right? Or curiosity. I had visited a medium named Nancy Myers, and she did say, you have a son who has ADD, and don't treat him. It just means he answers to a different dimension, which we both did. And most of the meeting was a little mundane and normal, but and I was kind of looking at my watch, but at the end she said, your dad is here, and he's showing me a caboose and saying railroad. Now, my dad worked 40 years on a railroad, raised 10 kids. My grandfather was a railroader. My Uncle Bill was a railroader. All the boys, we had 5 boys and 5 girls. All the boys worked on the railroad in college. Right behind me on my bookcase is a railroad lantern. We were a railroad family. So when the old man sent that, Iron Joe was his name, but nickname on the railroad. When Iron Joe sent that caboose, all he was telling me was that he's somewhere that he can connect. And that was it. No, he didn't give me any lottery numbers or secrets to the universe. He just let me know he was there. So I kind of stored that in my folder, for my mental folder, file cabinet. And 16 years later, when my son drowned, I got the knowledge, or the message that if Iron Joe is somewhere, then my son's with him. And we just got to figure out where that is and how do we get there. And that was my search, Marla. That's been my search.
And so when did you start connecting with Christopher from the other side? Like, what was the first, if you can remember the first
of course.
meeting?
Remember, I dictated it. It's all down in notes. I didn't know I was writing a book. I assumed that I was going to take all these copious notes. Pretty good word for a blue-collar kid from Buffalo, New York. So I took all these notes, assuming that I'd be just sitting on a patio someday, rocking on a rocking chair, reading these notes, trying to connect with, feeling closer to my boy. So a few days after, I had called that same medium who had been in the Chicago area and had relocated years before to Surprise, Arizona. Actually, I had lunch with her a couple of years back when my other son was working in spring training. And she's lovely. So I called her and we had a conversation that was unbelievable. She talked about his transforming over and talked about his crossing and the events. And she told me things that I didn't confirm until I got the coroner's report. So it was pretty outstanding. And she said, your son's an old soul, because it's unusual for somebody who's transitioning now to be able to, give you this kind of information. So we connected, her and I, for a couple of times that month, and I would hold on like my fingertips, waiting to hear from her again and call her. And like a good therapist, they're not going to take the call and take the money all the time. It's like, you gotta give him time to acclimate, And so we had some wonderful sessions, and then I decided that I needed more. I wanted a little more physical type contact. So I wanted to find a medium that I could talk to in person. And I was looking at some reviews in my area, and Bob Olson had a chart. And Bob Olson wrote a wonderful book that I had read and was very helpful. And I looked up this guy, Andrew Anderson, and he was in the western suburbs, maybe 35 minutes from my house, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I decided to book with Andrew, and he had my first name only, nothing else. And I the day I was going to meet with him, I stopped and did 2 things. Now, for a lot of people that know me, they're not going to find this all that unusual. I actually moved Chris over one grave plot. So because we buried him in January and the snow was on the ground and it was frozen. and they couldn't put the headstone down until the ground softens. So but his plot was right next to another couple who had been there at Sacred Heart Cemetery for a while. So when the snow melted and I saw that it looked like he was their kid, I was livid. That, Chris was my kid, and so after raising a little hell and writing a little check, we moved him over one plot, and I'll occupy the plot that he was in. But it's perfect. And so any listener there that's saying to you, where that gets these voices, or higher voices, messages, don't ignore them. Think it through. It makes sense. And so I moved him over, and I'm so happy with that decision. So I had ordered shamrock seeds, and that morning I was going to plant them around the loose dirt around his grave. And then the shamrock seeds still come through to this day in the spring, which is wonderful. And I also stopped, I went to my dresser and pulled out just this leather bracelet that Chris had given me when he was 6 at Disney World. And it said Pop on it, or Dad on it. And there was on the clasp is a picture of Goofy, the character. So I guess that's self-explanatory. But I hadn't touched that thing since we were in Disney World together. Once again, 15 years prior. So I put it on, put a cuff over it, and stopped at the grave, planted the shamrock seeds, and went in to see this medium in person. And I was pretty excited and a little nervous. One of the things is early on, you're just worried about a swing and a miss, right? How am I going to handle going in there and it flopping? That's going to be a long, painful ride home. Didn't have to worry about that. Walked in, saw all the posters of the Chinese lanterns and balloons and crystals all over the place. And I said, okay, he's the right guy. We're going to be okay. And I sat down and he said, look, Chris is acknowledging that you celebrated something. The family on the other side with Chris celebrated something for you too. What was that? Well, this is June 30th of 2016. And Sally and I had celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary the day before. Now, we didn't exactly celebrate it because we lost a kid, but we acknowledged it. And that's what he was acknowledging. He also said, Christopher is saying that you're wearing the bracelet he gave you and that you stopped at his grave and planted something today. Marla, that's the moment I went from believing to knowing. And it literally was, buckle up. This is going to be an exciting ride. And that, put me into, overdrive to try to continue to work through this and continue to connect with my boy.
So did you to connect with your boy? Because I know you've talked to a lot of psychic mediums. Our mutual friend is somebody who you're in touch with, Sherry Jewell, psychic medium Sherry Jewell.
She's a friend. She's more than just a medium. She's a friend. Well,
she does that. She you start one way and all of a sudden you're under her wing and here you are.
Yeah.
But when did you actually start hearing from Christopher directly? When did that open up for you?
Great story. So that on the anniversary of his birth, anniversary of his transitioning, June 3rd, 2017. It was the 1-year anniversary. Now, that previous year, I had started meditating. I had started, I might not look like it, but, I don't look like the kind of guy that would have crystals and burning sage and candles, but I do, because I'm going to do anything I can to catch an edge. I want an edge in connecting with him, and remember, like you said, I'm in the mortgage business, which is all dollars and cents, and I'm in common sense. And I was in the car business, which is a pretty factual business. So you're not going to hustle me, right? I'm impervious to two things, being bullied and being conned. Just isn't going to happen, so I knew that this was all real. So I started picking up, aligning chakras. I had a chart. I still, to this day, I did it at 3:00 this morning. I'll align my chakras. I'll light sage. I'll look at a picture of Chris. I will breathe in, hold it for 7 seconds, exhale, say his name, listen to a guided meditation on the headsets in the dark, except for candles. And on the first anniversary, I went through my routine in this room, which used to be his bedroom. is now my office. And I got a, halfway through the meditation, or the meditation was finished, and I started getting feedbacks from my kid. And I'm like, what? And it was, and he was describing where he was. And he was saying things like, this is amazing, Pop. You're not going to believe the colors, the greens, the blues. He said, everything's warm. It's never cold. And the air is air, but it's love air. And it was like, oh my goodness, so I'm writing down, transcribing what he's giving me. This isn't back and forth. I'm not asking him questions. He's dictating, I'm writing. And that was the anniversary. And one of the reasons that I immediately knew that wasn't me making this up to put a bandage on my broken heart is that he said to me, Dad, you got to let go of the resentment with Scotty. He said, I loved him and he loved me. We were pals. He said, it wasn't his fault. And I said, sure, Chris, no worries. I'll let go of that for you. And besides, when will I ever see Scotty again? That was the kid whose parents owned the house. So I was mad at somebody. It had to be him, right? I wasn't ready to let go of that resentment, even though I had nothing. It wasn't his fault. Could have been at my house. Could have been at your house.
Right.
So flash forward 12 hours. Sally and I were going to go there at his grave at sundown and launch a Chinese lantern. And I get a text from some of his college friends who are still family to us. They give us air to breathe. I love these kids. So we were just at a wedding all together for Christopher's best friend, a young girl named Mish, who just got married. And so these guys' relationship's amazing. They said, Mr. McHugh, a few of us are going to meet at his grave at 3. Can you join us? So I threw some ice in a hockey cooler and some beer and some Gatorade. And I'm 35 years sober, so the Gatorade was for me, and a box of cigars. And I pulled up and there were 35 kids at his grave. 35.
Wow.
And one of those kids was Scotty. And I was able to embrace him. He was crying his eyes out and tell him I loved him and that Chris loved him and it wasn't his fault, So my son not only removed this resentment, but he prepared me for this meeting that I would have been, awkward and not known how to handle. That's how loving he is. So I knew that moment, that this wasn't me filling in the blanks. This was Chris giving me a path to help other people. And that was the first time. That, by the way, that relationship, that download, that visit happens twice a month to this day. It happened at 3:00 this morning. So I'm so grateful for that connection. It gives me air to breathe. It really does.
It does. And what a gift that your son gave you, because the guilt that Scotty has been carrying around with him before you went to his grave that first time is so by you embracing him,
right?
There's nothing other than love. Forgiveness is, in my opinion, like the next strongest emotion that one can do. And when you can truly forgive and allow,
right?
Everybody, as you know, comes out better on the other side.
Yeah. Who am I to hold a resentment? Who am I to judge? I'm just another bozo on the bus, making my way through this run around the track, this once more around the track here,
Far from a bozo, but we're going to go take a quick break on that and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Stay tuned for more of Joe McQuillen and Christopher.
Okay, good. We're all clear. Back in a couple minutes.
Thank you. I'm going to try seeing how it looks.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. I'm hoping that the internet will stay up while we're on break. So tell me, you said spring training. Is one of your sons a baseball player?
No, my son took and he'd struggled ever since, Christopher crossed over, took some time off school. So I got him hooked up to work for a buddy who runs spring training for Cave Creek. So it's the Giants and the Kansas City Royals. And this kid was Uncle Mike to my Chris. And this was the guy that Chris, broke Chris out of the hospital. He literally broke him out. And doctor said to him, you don't have the authority to leave. He said, I'm leaving with this kid, whether it's over you or around you. I don't care. You call it because we're leaving. And they did. And he got him to Scottsdale Osborne Hospital. And I was there. I was able to get there following day and stayed with him for that week. And it was an amazing time. But it was one of his near-death experiences, So that kid, Uncle Mike, he's like a little brother to me. He's still part of my life.
How wonderful is that? You've got so many people helping you, they're all conspiring to help you. I mean, that's the reality.
That's the
Right?
reality. I have the group. I have a wonderful family and an amazing group of friends. Amazing group of friends who, and a couple of them who, a little bit, a little hard nosed, who said, unless it was you telling me this story, I wouldn't believe it. But since it's you, I buy it 100%, and that's why Chris wants me to be the messenger. I don't look like one,
Well, you don't look like one, but it's like, Cracker Jacks, the prize in Cracker Jacks. You don't know what you're going to get, but it's no less a prize.
That's true. That's true.
So,
I'm the prize kid.
there it is. Well, you are. I mean, look at how much you're doing for so many people, which I want to get into on the next
Sure. Look how much I'm getting out of it.
segment. Well, it's a win-win. I mean, when you give and you give from the heart and you're of service, you get.
Service is a
And
huge
it's
part of it.
just a beautiful, energetic, a huge energetic. So I know Christopher's very, very proud of you on the other side. He's with you now, as you know.
Yeah, I can feel him on the back of my neck.
I was going to say he's on your left shoulder. That's what I was feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's there a lot, I'm lucky to have him.
All right, we're just about to come back.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, if it gets a little wonky, I'm going to pull off my picture so we can get you talking.
Wonky, is that a Google term? Wonky.
Yes.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. If you're just tuning in, I'm with Joe McQuillen. Joe is a married father of 3, his eldest one on the other side. We're talking about his experience with Christopher, who's his eldest. On the other side now, he is a 2-time author. His first book, My Search for Christopher. If you're on Facebook, you can see the cover. And he just finished his second book. We're not done yet, Pop. Which is a book that is co-written between Joe and his son from the other side. And so we were talking about what's happened, and now we're going to move on to these books and find out what the content is. So welcome back, Joe.
Thank you. It's funny. I certainly didn't envision writing one book, much less 2. In 2017, February 2017, my brother-in-law Ricky was over. Just kind of hanging out with Sally, Christopher's mom, my wife, 30 years, and they were talking, and he said, they were talking about when Chris was little, how he would play hide and seek, and he would hide behind the couch and you'd find him and he'd yell, hide again. And he'd take off and go in the closet. You'd find, and he'd do this all day. It's like throwing a Labrador a ball, it just doesn't stop. And I laughed because I thought, wow, you know what? I was overhearing that conversation, but I was supposed to, because I needed to tell people, how to find their kid. Chris wanted me to, it no longer was about me and Chris alone. It was about me and Chris and helping and service. I really believe in all my heart of hearts, Marla, that I've given this unbelievable gift of connecting with my son. And I'm not a medium. I've been told I'm a bit of an empath, and I have some, but I don't see your mom or dad or the producer's mom. That's not what I want, right? I do this to connect with Chris, but I also know that I've got to give it away to keep it. So I'm given this amazing gift of not only connection and warmth and love, but knowledge. And he tells me things about the other side. He tells me things about my path. And it's amazing. But if I try to hoard this, like, King Midas's gold, I'm going to lose it.
Right.
So I got to use this to help others. And that's really kind of the mission that he put me on. And it literally is, I follow the breadcrumbs, and he'll say, you got to help others, Dad, especially fathers. Mothers can share and break it down, and everybody's heart's amazingly broken. but fathers don't think they have the right to grieve. And you're a good ambassador with the brush cut and the broken nose. They might hear it from me, or they might not hear it from somebody else. I dare anybody to have an issue with me in the middle of the day, just stopping, walking away, and crying because my heart's broken. That's a quote from the movie Manchester by the Sea. A woman lost some kids in a fire, and she said, "My heart was broken. It'll always be broken." And that's it. When you've lost a kid, your heart's never not going to be unbroken. Now that doesn't mean you can't function like a good dad and a good employee and a good friend. I'm all of those things, but I do it all with a piece of my heart broken that won't be healed until I cross over and connect again with my kid. So that's really important. And another message that I think is real important is that for the first 3 days after Christopher drowned, you've got these amazing amount of things to do. You've got to find a grave. You got to get a church. You got to get, a reception. You got to get a tombstone. You've got to get, readers. You've got to get a suit for your kid. There's this unmanageable list of things that somehow you put your left foot in front of your right and get it done. But every night I'd get on my knees and I'd say to God, we're not good, you and me. I would say, thank you for my sobriety. Thank you for my family. But don't think we're good. You took my kid. And I did that for 3 nights. And on the third night, I got a voice back in my head that said, I didn't take your son. His recklessness and free will caused him to come home early. I welcomed him. And remember, I lost a son too. So at that point, I knew God wasn't moving us around like chess pieces, or I wasn't paying for past sins by God snatching my son. I knew that God was the reason I was able to function and get these things done. So my perception and relationship with God changed substantially. That I knew He was a loving Father, not a cruel judge. So I knew then that I was on some kind of journey. I just didn't know what it was until Chris told me.
And it is a journey, and it's still a journey. And so Chris came in and talked to you, and you wrote the first book, My Search for Christopher.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what's in this.
Okay. There's a lot of the visits with mediums. This was all brand new to me. I didn't grow up with tambourines and beads and chakras. All of that was kind of new. Not that I didn't poo-poo it. It just wasn't part of my life. So when I figured out that there are some routines and there are some rules of the road, there's a gal who wrote, Russo out of New York, wrote a book called The Happy Medium, and she talked about exit points. And generally she said that the third exit point usually results in crossing over. Now, how would I know that rule? How would you know that rule? But I guess through experience it is. And Chris had 2 near-death experiences. He flipped a pickup truck on his way to the ranch. He was working at the ranch, and early in the morning flipped it and walked away with a sprained wrist, and it was smashed like a pancake. And a second time he fell down. He was hiking up in Havasupai, and the guy who was leading, he was there as staff but helping out, made a mistake and let the kids walk into a cave, and then there was an empty mine shaft, and Chris fell down 30 feet, landed on a ledge. It broke his shoulder, broke his bone, broke a few things, his arm, and they had to airlift him out of there. And when he was done, he told me later on, when I was in the hospital with him, that there was, a guy in white, all white, down there talking to him when he was in that mine shaft. And I talked to the people that were there, and they said there wasn't anybody down there, and so I didn't realize at that time, because of my naivete, that was an angel. I didn't know about angels. I knew about guardian angels, and I thought that, it was a prayer you said when you were a kid. But the bottom line is that I now know that angels are real. I know near-death experiences happen to other people and not to me. So the first book was really about the journey and trying to figure out how to navigate these connections with mediums, with my own connection. The second book, and I didn't think there was, the first book was ending, and I was a little maudlin, a little sad because I loved this connection I had. And Chris said to me, we're not done yet, Pop. We're going to continue to write books together until you cross over, which isn't anytime soon, So that was reassuring, but there was also a little bit of hefty responsibility. It's like, dang, I got to write another book. That's what Chris told me to do, So I follow the breadcrumbs that he lets down. The second book we talk about thin places, which we were talking about Lilydale, which is a thin place for me. The beaches in Florida are a thin place for me. My room here, the grave that I moved, the cemetery I moved his grave over is a thin place. I'll sit there with a folding chair and a cigar in my Labrador, and I'll talk to him after cleaning out. The grave is always standing tall. It's beautiful. I have a piece of art with a coyote howling at the moon that I pound in behind his gravestone. It's gorgeous, like a silhouette. And I'm so happy with that grave. Now, I'm not like some old man feeding pigeons, in the park. I love being there, and I know we connect. And you meet the nicest people in the grave, in the cemetery. I know all the families and their kids that they lost, and my buddy Tom, who just lost his wife, a year ago, and we connect and we talk and we just lay down the rock and share the burden, and so that's part of my life. That's part of my responsibility of making sure that grave's always standing tall and maybe checking on a few others, and knowing it pleases my son. I live my life, two tenets. One is to please my God, and the other is to make my son proud. And if I can approach every situation with those two things in mind, I'm going to be okay, Marla. I'm going to be okay.
And you've also traversed into being of service and being helping. And we were talking before the show started about helping parents heal and what you do with them about, helping. These are all parents who have lost children, and how you give back. And you gave a presentation yesterday.
Last night.
Yeah.
You know what? But it's you're right. I guess it counts as me doing service, but guess who got the most out of it, right? I did a half-hour presentation and then took half hour with a Q&A with these parents who may be just, a little behind my journey. All they need sometimes is a nudge or an affirmation or some confidence that they can connect. Susan Giesman, brilliant author and in Medium.
Yes.
Talk about a straight arrow. She was assistant to the Joint Chiefs of Staff as a commander in the Navy. And
she was on the show.
Medium lecture. Oh,
yeah.
I love her. I think she's amazing. And the
She's
title of one
amazing.
of her books is Still Right Here. So I was sending out some books today, and I was stealing her quote. Your kids are still right here, and they are. And sometimes, people just need a nudge. The first book on Amazon has 209 reviews, and I read every single one of them, and they made me cry. Halfway through, I just said to Chris, "We've done our job, buddy. We've done it. We're helping people. You and I. There's a wonderful quote, and do I look like a guy who's gonna quote Haruki Murakami? And the quote is, "Once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure, in fact, whether the storm is really over. But one thing is for certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what storms are all about." And January 3rd, 2016 was a tsunami of a storm for me. And I'm not the same guy that walked into that storm.
No, but that's what happens too. But when you start going on your path, where you've never been on a path and something is the catalyst to bring you on the path, it's not necessarily the way we want to go on the path. It can be absolutely brutal. Sherry and I talk about that often, about that, the brutality that we go to as we're starting down our path. But as brutal as that was, the fact that you help so many people who have gone through similar situations, and when I say similar, they've lost their child, a child, multiple children in horrific ways. And
you're not the only guy that's been through it. I remember being in an AA meeting with a bunch of people that are friends, and these guys, And one of the guys connected story, it was amazing that when Chris was at NIU the first semester, he said, hey, when you come to, I was picking him up. He said, when you come pick him up, can we give my buddy Patrick a ride home to Northbrook? I said, sure, absolutely. Picked him up, and they were talking about a party they were at the night before. And he asked me a question. I said, well, I hadn't had a drink in about 28 years at that point. And so I said, but, I've been to that rodeo, believe me. He goes, oh yeah, my dad is going down that path now. So I thought that was great. And I said, have your dad call me. And his dad started going to a couple of meetings with me. And then his dad, is a lawyer and took over running a halfway house, a sober living house, and still runs his law firm. I mean, just they come to my golf outing, Christopher McQuillen golf outing every year, father and son. And so here, here's this guy's path was set by his son connecting. And I was in there and I was thinking about, I'm the only guy in the world that ever lost a kid, right? That's how you feel.
Right.
And he texted me and shared that when his child before Patrick was born at 4 years old had touched an electrical outlet when a babysitter was there and the basement was wet and electrocuted himself to death. A couple years later, they had another kid who died of leukemia. And then Patrick Patrick was one of triplets, and Patrick was born. And at that moment, I knew that I was part of a community. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. You're not the only guy. And driving into Sacred Heart on the right-hand side, right at the beginning past the gate, are Patrick's two boys. And I stopped and say hello to him for his dad and tell him how well his dad's doing, and then head to Christopher's grave. But that's the synchronicity that we're all talking about. Looking back, it was like, yeah, maybe I thought I was forging ahead with all this new information, and none of it's new. It's just new to me,
Right.
And maybe new to the other guy who's now just stumbling down the street, trying to get his arms around that he lost his kid and doesn't know what to do. I will tell you this, I don't completely believe in predestination. I think there are exit points. I think there are a lot of things that are supposed to be the way they are, but I don't think we're set like robots on a path. I think Chris was meant to leave early. Didn't have to be January 3rd, 2016, but it was early. I think that was his soul contract. So I do believe that there is some of that, but I also think God graced us with free will, so we can't blame him for all that's gone wrong in our lives, right? There's a great book called The Shack, and the book woman was God and speaking to a guy who lost his daughter. And God said, just because I work incredible good out of unspeakable tragedies doesn't mean I orchestrate the tragedies.
Brilliant quote.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. And it's so true because there is free will. I mean, I personally believe in pre-birth planning.
Yeah.
But in every plan, there is free will. And like the kids who have drug overdoses.
Yeah.
It's the free will to take the drug.
Right.
There might have been other points, exit points, but they chose this one. And this is what happened.
People who take their lives. I had a brother take his life. People who take their lives, I think they interrupt a soul contract. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm figuring out on this journey. And there's a lot of things, as Christopher tells me, you're not going to know, Pop, until you cross over. And he says things like, because you're not that smart. You're not going to get it until you cross over. But how about this? He told me, he said to me, look, Pop, when you cross, the learning curve is going to be a lot easier for you than it was for me because of what we're going through, you and me. He said, you're going to come into the woods and there'll be a stream and you've got to cross over it. I can't cross over it for you or with you. You've got to cross over it. I'll be on the other side. And the minute you cross over there, I'll be with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, wow. I guess it turns out you got to make that final step on your own. I didn't know that. Now I do.
Yeah.
Because Chris told me.
Absolutely. You definitely have to do that step on your own. We're going to stop here, Joe. We're going to go on our break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned with more of Joe McQuillen and Christopher.
All right, great job. We're all clear.
He wanted me to bring him into he wants me to use his name.
Oh, yeah. Use his name all the time.
No. But yeah, he's enjoying the show.
He's cute, gorgeous, isn't he? You see him as well as feel him?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's I can't tell you how many times tears have been rolling into my eyes with your story and the
my God.
goosebumps over and over and over again. It's powerful. It's really powerful. And what you're doing and how you're helping is just incredible. So,
Well, I don't have, like I said, you got to give it away to keep it. Am I willing to go back to sitting here, just holding my head, crying and
You
not
can't.
knowing? I'm not. I refuse to do that.
You can't do it because you are now in a different place with more education and more insight. And because of all of that, you are now sort of standing right there front and center, ready to be assisting, with Christopher's help, other people. You're trying to make their journey easier.
I'm trying
and
to,
make
I
them have
am. And please my son. I want him to be proud of me.
He is proud of you.
Yeah, that's what
He's
what
really
I'm
proud
doing.
of you.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You know how you were proud of him and all of his achievements and you would just glow?
I still do.
That's what he's doing. On the other side, he is looking at all you've done, the books, the speaking engagements, how you're trying to help people, and he's just glowing back like a peacock, proud as can be.
I like that.
Just like a peacock. And so it's a beautiful thing, and your relationship is so beautiful.
It always was. That's why, and the next book, one of the things I really want to heavily delve into, and I have to experience it first, is the plan. I've tried it, and it wasn't a great session, but I'm going to find somebody who's great at it and do a past lives regression, because I'm pretty confident, because I've been told by people like Sherry, like Thomas, like Andrew, that Chris and I were siblings in another lifetime. That's why we're so comfortable with each other. We were siblings. So I'm very much looking forward to that aspect of it, which is new for me.
I mean, I can help you with a past life regression. There's a woman by the name of, oh my God, Weissman.
Okay.
She's in Chicago area.
Oh, really?
I can't remember her first name. She's very well known.
10 seconds.
In the area. Okay. We'll talk about this on the other side.
Yeah. Which other side? Be careful with that
Our
term.
other side. Our other side.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, I just stumbled all over that, didn't I? Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I am with Joe McQuillen. So Joe he had an amazing life, 3 kids, married, living the life when he lost his eldest. And we're talking about Christopher and his 2 books, which are called My Search for Christopher on the Other Side, and We're Not Done Yet, Pop, My Lessons from the Other Side. And that's right, because I can't hold it up because I have unstable internet. But this is charity shout out time. So we're going to do that. We're going to get back to Joe and Christopher and their story. But in the meantime, check out Joe's website at mysearchforchristopher.com.
No, .net.
It says
I
.com.
got a new one because the second book. So it's joemcquillen.net.
Oh,
and then this
for that.
interview will be on there too. So My Search for Christopher was still up and running, but it's only about the first book. So this is about both.
Perfect. So joemcquillen.net. Check this out. See how his experience is, what's on the website, see how he can help you. And if you've lost a child, if you don't mind me saying this, reach out to Joe.
jbmcquillen@gmail.com. Reach out if you lost somebody. Send me an email. Send me your cell phone. Let's take a little time to play catch up and talk. Because that's the path that I'm on. That's what I'm supposed to do.
It is. It's a beautiful path. So this is charity shout out time. So we don't have a lot of time left, but you have In Balance Ranch Academy, which you're on the board of, which is inbalancecounseling.com.
It's a boarding school for teens with addiction between 14 and 18 in Huachuca, Arizona. It's an old dude ranch that they turned into a therapeutic boarding school, equine, and kids shovel manure and take care of animals and get high school degrees. And I go out there annually, except for last year because of COVID, and talk to the boys because let's face it, I was one of them. Right? I was a bad kid, so I know them and they know me, and I can love them through their BS, and the people who run it are just amazing, Patrick and Betsy Barrasso. So we raised money for scholarships because it's an expensive endeavor. And if we can save a kid or two, the heartbreak and his parents, we're doing it.
All right. You're saving people from experiencing what you're experiencing with your loss of Christopher. I also want to bring in, so check out inbalancecounseling.com and see how you can help and donate. But let's talk about how Helping Parents Heal, what their email is, and that charity as well, because it is a not-for-profit and it's really important.
It's huge. It's Elizabeth Boson is just an amazing gal, and they just came out with the first book of their own. They've done. They're part of Craig McMahon, who's a brilliant filmmaker, has a series of films called Life to Afterlife. We're not done yet, or we're not. They're about parents who've lost kids. Mama, can you hear me? And actually, I just went out and shot for his newest documentary. We were one of the subjects, Chris and I, and we flew out there. But Helping Parents Heal is just amazing because you can't join unless you lost a kid. So we can put things on website and publish things, and you're not looking. Nobody thinks you're looking for attention or sympathy. We're just trying to drop the rock. So we're all just trying to help each other. So yesterday's meeting was amazing. So its website is Helping Parents Heal. And you can just look up Helping Parents Heal also just on Google, and it'll take you to the webpage. And it's specific. It's for parents who've lost kids. And, it's not that any loss doesn't matter, but there's something about losing a child that kind of shakes your soul. So it's great to have a family to connect with. And I got to tell you, they do a lot more for me, Marla, than I do for them. That's a fact.
I have a feeling it's a mutual support situation, and that you both get a lot out of each other's contributions.
Well, I'm one of them, right? It's like the kids at the ranch. I'm one of those boys, and Helping Parents Heal, I'm one of those parents. We cry together. When we drop the rock and actually get real. And so, if you lost a kid, join it. Reach out to Elizabeth and join it and be part of the community. It makes a difference, I promise.
It does make a difference. And there's so many people that they don't even know where to go or where to reach out to get that support.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right.
So it's a good place to have. And I'm glad you're gracious about letting me throw in that as a charity as well. And charity shout out because it's, I'm glad I don't have that situation, but I can imagine just how heart-wrenching it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's funny because it's a bad deal. I've given all this insight to the metaphysics. I'm giving some insight to what life is going to be like when I cross over. I'm giving this connection with my son who's around me, and you can see him and I can feel him. And I traded it all in to sit down with him tonight and get a pizza and watch a Thursday night football game. But you can't unring that bell. I would rather be abysmally ignorant of all things metaphysical and get to hang out with my kid, but I can't unring that bell, right? So it's like, what are you going to do then? So where are you going with this? And this is my path. I certainly didn't take it on myself. It was assigned by that good-looking kid over my left shoulder.
The good-looking kid said, "You get the pizza, and I'll be there with you." So
I'm in. It's a date. And tell him to keep his feet off the coffee table this time.
Oh, he said it doesn't make a difference. You wouldn't see them anyway.
I know. It's funny. My dog sees him when he's around the house. My dog sees him.
Animals do. Animals have the most amazing sense of knowing when there's an energy there that, whether it's an energy that's not supposed to be there or one that's hanging around that they're familiar with.
Yeah. You know, what's one thing I think is funny is that, this is labeled New Age, what we're doing, right? So, and by the way, I figured that we're and it was in a wonderful book, The Secret, that we're not physical beings. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Absolutely.
And we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that was said by a priest, Pierre Desjardins, who died in 1955. So, I'm stumbling on all of this like it's new. It's all established. It's only new to me.
So I found out I was in Egypt 5,000 years ago studying metaphysics. So it is not new at all. I mean, this has been going on for eons. It's just maybe not as out as it is today.
Should have brought me a T-shirt from Egypt.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, but then again, I'd have to be in Chicago to hand it off to you.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But you never know. Maybe there's T-shirts to be made. I knew you 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, I know it. You know what? I remember once saying one time in an AA meeting that, I'm a different guy than I was back then. And back then I could have handed out T-shirts that said, "I will let you down." And yet here I am now, probably the most responsible guy, a little flighty, but very responsible,
You know what? But it's a passion of the heart.
Yeah, it is.
It is not, you're not doing this for accolades. You're not doing this for attaboys. This is a passion of the heart between you and Christopher, bringing it forward to do what he's requesting of you. And you're following his requests and trying
sometimes
to.
it's a little harsher than a request. Sometimes it's a demand, like, "Pop, you need to do this. Hey, Pop." And I remember seeing Thomas John, and he said, "Are you writing a book?" And that was during the first book. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Chris says get going on it." I said, "Thomas, I'm doing the best I can. I'm working, raising a family, writing a book." He said, "Yeah, that's really good. Chris says get going on it." It's like, okay. Chris takes me out to the woodshed every once in a while and makes sure that I'm on the right direction, So I appreciate that, Chris.
Well, and he's grateful for what you do for the many.
Yeah.
So, and that as well as I do. I mean, I don't have to share what he's telling me now. This.
I'd love to hear it, though. Thank you. I just love that others can get that Chris is around me. I feel him, you see him, and their kids are around them. Wake up, do the work, put in the time, figure it out. GOYA, which is get off your butt.
You can say it any way you want.
Get off your ass and try to find where your kid is. Help them connect to you.
What a beautiful way to end the show.
It's a beautiful way to end the show with me cursing at your listeners.
You're not cursing at my listeners. You are giving a sort of strident request to get moving and find your child.
And it's worth it. God,
and they want to connect with you.
Yeah. So reach out, get a hold of me, buy the book. If you like the book, leave a review on Amazon. If you don't like the book, keep it to yourself. But anytime I can help you, let me know.
Thank you, Joe. And I want to have you back for the next book too.
Yeah, I'm working on it. We're working on it.
I know you are. So I need to say thank you to you. Please pick up both books. My Search for Christopher on the Other Side. We're Not Done Yet, Pop. My Lessons from the Other Side on Amazon, Audible, Kindle. And check Joe out at Joe McQuillen, McQuillen.net.
Atta girl.
And if you need to reach out to him, please do. I want to thank everyone at Voice America for helping me to get this show up and running, and all they do with my technical issues. I want to thank Bridget, my right hand, my left hand. Thank you so much for all you do for me. I want to thank you, my listeners, for taking the time out of your day, out of your life, to be a part of this show, to listen to, and I hope that what I'm putting out, you're receiving with the intention I'm sending out to you. I want to remind you to download that Clubhouse app because Psychic Medium Sherry Jewel and I will be on Monday at Spirit Talk and Convos in that room. This upcoming Monday, we're doing readings, so please tune in. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Check out my website at MarlaGoldberrg with 2Rs.com. See how I can work with you, how I can help you. And until next week, as always, I send you love, I send you blessings, and I send you gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it. And if you haven't heard these words today, I love you. And if you have heard them, it's just one more I love you going out to you. Remember, you're never alone. You need somebody, you call out for help. Your angels are around, but you have to ask for them to answer. So send your messages their way and wait for the miracles to happen. So until next week, as always, stay well. Take care.